All right, folks, we're just getting started very shortly, so just bear with me for 1 second. There we go. All right, so let's do this. Today's date is December 28, 2019. Ooh, wow. The last Saturday of the year. And this is how the Frack We Got Here. This is a show, this is a podcast that basically takes the events of the week and try to make sense of it all. I'm your host, Will Buchanan, and on this podcast, we do talk about pretty much everything political. And at the same time, I have my playback going at the same time, so I apologize. Aside from that, guys, like I said, this is an adult podcast, which means that things of adult nature may be shown, language may be used, things of graphic nature may be shown, so viewer discretion is advised. Woo! That was a mouthful. So, again, guys, apologize for the very late start on this. Like I said, it's, just trying to get used to the holiday season as we all try to get past this, as we try to get past the wonderful happy holiday season and Christmas and happy Kwanzaa and Hanukkah and all the other multiple celebrations that may be actually going on right now. But aside from that, let's go ahead and jump right into it and basically see what's going on in the political world, especially the world that Trump has already screwed up. We'll start with this.
Has Nancy Pelosi on the brain. Just moments ago, he continued his Twitter attacks against the House Speaker, insisting Democrats are stalling because their case against him is weak. The president also targeting the top Democrat in the Senate, Chuck Schumer, for his attacks on Republican Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, after McConnell said just days ago he's not an impartial juror. Yet at the height of the Clinton impeachment saga, then newly elected Senator Schumer said this on CNN.
This is not a criminal trial, but this is something that the Founding Fathers decided to put in a body that was susceptible to the whims of politics. And also, it's not like a jury box in the sense that people will call us and lobby us. You don't have jurors called and lobbied and things like that. I mean, it's quite different than a jury.
As we look at all of this playing out, a Schumer spokesperson telling CNN his statements came after the conclusion of the Starr investigation and that there was, of course, eventual testimony from President Clinton. But, Joan, as we look at all of this, it really does show just how political the process is, not just.
And that's kind of where I want to stop it, because what's going on currently right now, guys, if you've been under a rock, yes, President Trump has been impeached, and the weirdest discussion over impeachment trials still mystifies me to this day. Now, for all those that don't know, here's a quick recap about how impeachment works. Once the president has been impeached, the House sends articles of impeachment on the charges of which he's impeached upon to the Senate, in which the Senate does actually have a trial, which is actually held by Supreme Court justice, in which the Senate is basically the jury. Of course, 2/3 of the majority vote are needed to either remove the president for office, or if you don't get 2/3 of a vote, the president is actually staying. So the reason why that story is important is because this, my friends, is distraction. No one cares about what Chuck Schumer said in the past about the Senate not being a jury trial. You can call witnesses and things of that nature. This was actually surrounding the Clinton impeachment, in which the Republicans were going after a president for a blowjob. Let's be honest. Yes, apparently that is a thing that, for me, because I think the impeachment happened when I was 15, 16. But anyway, as a kid, it's the whole thing about, yes, the Republicans went after Clinton for lying about getting head in the White House. Who knew you could impeach a president for that? So, guys, look, really, no matter how you look about it, whether you're on one side or the other side of it all, the impeachment process is a straight process. This is all just white noise. Now, yes, if you've watched every podcast that I've ever done about this, I've shown many a times where the Mueller investigation, multiple instances of abuse of power, the Ukraine transcripts, things of that nature, all of them point to the simple fact of the matter is that, yes, there is a lot of smoke that needs to be looked into. That being said, however, the Senate at this point, because McConnell has already sat there and said he's not going to be an impartial juror, makes it very more difficult for the actual case to be decent and safe. So we really shouldn't be surprised about that. So that whole story, as far as what they're drumming up is, I'm going to just chalk it up to a slow news day, was that they're pretty much trying to say that, okay, you said this about the Clinton administration, which echoed exactly what the Republicans are saying, so what changes your tune now? Doesn't change anything, it's just distraction. Now, this, however, is very interesting from the Republican side, because apparently there's dissension in the ranks.
Morning, the impeachment showdown in Washington. For the first time, a key Republican senator is speaking out.
Alaska Senator Lisa Murkowski says she's, quote, disturbed about how the process has unfolded so far between Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and the White House.
In the meantime, a lingering threat from North Korea has been the focus of attention in Washington, but the so-called Christmas gift from Kim.
Okay, so let me just stop it right there because I think the sound might have went a little bit out, so I apologize if it did. But pretty much the senator from Alaska is Lisa Murkowski. You'll probably remember her, but the simple fact of the matter is that she was the one that pretty much was one of the few Republicans that actually voted now Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh in. Remember that guy that had sexual allegations against him, but nobody wanted to investigate? Yeah, she was one of those votes. But anyway, she's now saying that she's deeply disturbed by the way that Republicans are acting, especially over the Senate trial. You would think from a certain situation, if they have nothing to worry about, then they should be impartial. However, this is showing that her and a very key number of other Republicans may actually be going against what McConnell said. In which, in this case, that they actually either may defect or they actually might give it an honest trial. Hard to say at this point, but we're just going to just leave it at that. I just find it funny that they say I'm deeply concerned. I'm deeply concerned that people like pickles. Doesn't mean that it's going to change anything. But again, that just remains to be determined whenever it comes to that. And also about the impeachment trial, the other thing that they pointed out was former Vice President Joe Biden, who has sat there and said this about the Senate trial if it was come to that.
Hiring back at a voter today after the retired farmer questioned the former vice president's age and fitness for the job and accused Biden of sending his son to work in Ukraine to sell access to President Obama. Take a listen.
But you, on the other hand, sent your son over there to get a job and work for a gas company that he had no experience in gas or nothing, in order to get access to the public for the president. So you're selling access to the president just like he is. So you've got
a damn liar, man. That's not true. And no one has ever said that? No one has done that?
I see it on the TV.
You see it on the TV. No, I know you do. And by the way, that's why I'm not sedentary. I get up and no, let him go. Let him go. Look, the reason I'm running is because I've been around a long time and I know more than most people know. And I can get things done. That's why I'm running. And you want to check my shape on it, let's do push-ups together here, man. Let's run. Let's do whatever you want to do. Let's take a nice.
So let me get this straight. The guy asked him a question about whether or not him and his son were involved in a Ukraine thing. Keep in mind, there is no actual fact to that. It's been investigated, things of that nature. But even though the question itself is a little bit asinine, his response was, "You're a damn liar." Not very presidential, Joe. I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, for a simple fact of the matter is, I personally think you're really way too old to be running for president. At the same time, your responses to people's questions are a little bit questionable. I'm just saying. And what is this whole thing about him and wanting to do push-ups and running and, whatever you want to do, we'll do it and all this crap? And I'm just like, is Joe Biden needing a workout partner? I'm concerned. I mean, I know Obama's out there living out. I know former President Obama's out there living out his best life. But is Joe that lonely that he needs a workout partner? Because if you hadn't noticed, he's like challenging everybody to push-ups, sit-ups, running. Is he trying to go for a Planet Fitness endorsement? I'm just wondering. But anyway, aside from that clip, he did reiterate Friday that there is a possibility that the Republicans in the Senate may actually send a subpoena for him to testify in the impeachment trial of President Trump, which a lot of people are scratching their heads as far as that, because yes, in the Senate trial, senators can call witnesses to testify. It's already been known that a lot of the former Trump administration will be called to testify, including those that are actually already in prison. Of course, we're going to see what the White House does, because the last time anybody of the administration is about to be investigated, they somehow slipped their way in and blocked them from answering certain questions. I'm not surprised if it happens now, which is interesting now that they're asking Biden to, which, let's be honest, at this point, it's not officially been asked, but you can see the track records where they're going from. And Biden is pretty much saying, well, this is for Donald Trump, this is against him, this isn't me. Although the simple fact of the matter is, if you're looking at it from a presidential candidate side, it's hard to take Biden seriously when he sounds like that 80-year-old man that doesn't like questions. He's basically the old guy from Up. If you've never seen Up, he's basically the old guy. The old grumpy dude. He started to turn into that to me. But again, I'm not voting for him anyway. But again, he's not very presidential, Joe. That's all I'm saying. But moving right along, guys, some very other messed up news. For anybody that doesn't remember the Botham Jean case, which is still, unfortunately, even though Amber Geiger was the officer that did actually commit the murder, I'm saying murder. I'm not actually saying, accidental death. It was a murder. But anyway, City of Dallas did dismiss the wrongful death suit against the City of Dallas. A federal judge had ruled that the actions of Amber Geiger killing Botham Jean did not include the City of Dallas, in which the civil lawsuit, which was actually filed by the family, had sat there and said that yes, the City of Dallas, which employed the woman and made sure that she had so what they call adequate training, was the reason as why they would include the lawsuit. Of course, the judge dismissed the case with prejudice, which means that the family cannot reappeal. So, in that case, that is fucked up. I mean, it is already fucked up that a woman can turn that, a police officer can sit there and use the excuse of going into a house that it wasn't even hers to shoot a person that was literally just sitting there unarmed and defenseless, and sit there and say that she got her fear for her life, although she was convicted of murder and only given, so many years. But as we always see from the courtroom, how everybody coddled the murderer. Yeah. And at the same time, now that the family is trying to actually make not only her pay, but the city pay, the city itself is somehow absolved. I do not understand how or why, considering the fact that the city was the one that gave her the training, was the one that gave her the badge, and was the one that gave her firearms training, but apparently did not give her the good sense to sit there and say, hey, maybe you should check the door before you open it up. But again, that's one of those things where it's uber fucked up about that situation. I pretty much think that the City of Dallas is responsible for that because she is a city employee. No different than when Ray Rice knocked out his wife in a hotel room, how everybody wanted the NFL to fire Ray Rice. So, pick and choose your poisons from there. But also from another thing, from a voter standpoint, which I keep telling people, voting is so important. It really is. And if you haven't noticed, look at the steps they're trying to get us on. For example, this right here. Of course, for all those who know who Stacey Abrams is, she actually ran for the governor's seat in Georgia. So basically, in her case, she was going against, she was basically talking about voter suppression and things of that nature, and she can't say she didn't call it because a few months ago, a judge the current governor decided to remove 1,000 voters off its registration rolls. And now, because it was appealed, they turned around and said, nope, the rolls can stay the same. Now, you're probably asking yourself, what does that mean? So basically, when you have a voter roll, that means that basically everybody that's on the roll is allowed to vote. When you go to a voting poll, they basically look you up, say you're eligible, you go do your thing. That's basically your registration. The problem is in Georgia, now 100,000 people could be unaware that they may not be able to vote, which means that they have to go through the entire voter registration process, and depending on where they are or where they're at, the most closest place to them could be miles away, as most voting polls and registrations in some areas, especially in Georgia, is a lot farther out, which could dispel many people, most of them minorities. So, why is this important? It's important because the fact of the matter is the voting registration needs to change. Stacey Abrams and a few others have been out there trying to change that, but at the same time, they are facing opposition, especially in this case, because I'm going to call it what it is. When people are trying to purge voter registrations from a system, they are basically trying to game the system. This is no different than anything else in life when they're trying to win. And I'm not saying the Republicans are behind it, but let's be honest, who's running the White House right now? But again, from the simple fact of the matter is 100,000 people may be in danger of not being able to vote for next year's election. This is why I say voting is so important. Because the simple fact of the matter is, if you don't think your voice is important, why are they trying to take it away from you, number one? And at this point, it is almost asinine for the simple fact of the matter that, yes, they are trying to actually take away rights and trying to make it legal about it. In the same sense, especially in other areas of voter suppression states, as is reported by NBC.
Top advisor to the president's re-election campaign is taking a fair amount of heat this morning for comments about voter suppression. The advisor, Justin Clark, can be heard in audio that was obtained by the Associated Press telling Wisconsin Republicans, quote, Traditionally, it's always been Republicans suppressing votes in places. Let's start protecting our voters. We know where they are. Let's start playing offense a little bit. That's what you're going to see in 2020. It's going to be a much bigger program, a much more aggressive program, a much better funded program. And voting rights stand to be a major issue in the 2020 election. Right now, voters in 2 key states face some major hurdles. A judge has ordered Wisconsin to remove 234,000 registered voters after a lawsuit from a conservative group. President Trump won Wisconsin, you'll recall, by just under 23,000 votes. And initially, more than 300,000 registered voters were purged from the rolls in Georgia this month. 22,000 of those voters have been restored. Back in 2016, President Trump won Georgia by about 211,000 votes, but the state has increasingly turned a bit more purple than it used to be. I want to bring in Myrna Perez. She is the Brennan Center's director.
And that alone should tell you something. That's just 2 states. Not to mention, the fact of the matter is, there actually was another push in North Carolina where Republicans wanted a voter ID law in which they were trying to say that you need to have some sort of identification to vote. Now, for all those who are wondering, well, I show my driver's license and things of that nature. Yes, that is acceptable. What they're talking about is a step up, which most people these days either don't carry licenses or carry identification cards. But the fact of the matter is, having a voter ID means that you have to go through an entire sort of another process, which means that you're also having to go to a location, which may not be close to you. But anyway, you're basically setting up more hurdles for people to go through just to vote. This is why I say a tax on voting is so crucial. Because the simple fact of the matter is, they are trying to take it away from you. And if you haven't noticed, those are just 2 states. Keep in mind, those 2 key states, as long as the Electoral College is up, because I've said it beforehand, the Electoral College is a antique system that needs to go away, and we need to go by a popular vote. I have been saying that for years, and yet until that happens, we are stuck with the Electoral College, and that means that that just shows you how much your voting rights are in danger, but it also shows how much your voting rights are that important for them to happen. So again, I'll say this, and I'll say this one time, I'll keep on saying this in every podcast. If you got the chance, go vote. Or if you don't know the candidates, look them up. Do your own research. Look into them. Find out, because we got to get past this whole thing about, we also have to get past this whole thing about, well, I don't like either candidate. Well, no vote is just as much as giving a vote for the person you don't like, personally. But if you look at what they stand for, if you look at the candidates and you go from there, make your own decision, exercise the right to vote. It's the reason why you got it in the first fucking place. But going from there, guys, there is another sad story about NYPD where there's been a step up of anti-Semitic hate crimes, and at this point, no one knows why.
Attacks in the last week
is now up to 8. In fact, in the last year, the number of anti-Semitic hate crime complaints has shot up more than 50% in New York. And on this 6th night of Hanukkah, the NYPD is on alert. Here's Don Dahler.
On December 24th, a 56-year-old Jewish man in Brooklyn was approached by a group of men, one of whom punched him in the back of the head. That same day, a 25-year-old man was attacked in the same area. He told police a group of men cursed at him, saying "effing Jew," before throwing a liquid on him. Those are just 2 of at least 8 bias attacks this week in New York, including a man struck in Manhattan and a mother in Brooklyn hit in the head while walking with her 3-year-old son.
It's scary to know that people are being attacked simply because they're Jewish.
Rabbi Jonathan Leaner lives in Brooklyn with his wife and 2 young children.
As a rabbi for a whole congregation, making sure all of those people are safe is part of my responsibility as well, which is stressful considering the uptick in the violence.
Hate crimes are on the rise nationally, particularly against Jews. Assaults on them are up 105%. The worst of which was the Tree of Life massacre in Pittsburgh in 2018 that took the lives of 11 people. Earlier this month, there was a deadly attack in Jersey City on a kosher grocery store. In the past year, a dozen white supremacists have been arrested for plots or attacks against Jews. Evan Bernstein is regional director of the Anti-Defamation League.
Why are these hate crimes on the rise? We've seen a lot of gentrification issues, housing issues, cultural strife that takes place, lack of communication. But a lot of that has been there for a lot of years, but also has been there. Anti-Semitism has been part of our culture for generations. And now we've seen kind of the uncapping of that over the last 4 years.
The first attack happened this week here on New York's Upper East Side. A man was punched and kicked after the suspect allegedly made an anti-Semitic remark. Now, in light of these attacks, the NYPD is beefing up their patrols in Jewish neighborhoods. And Jim, New York's governor has directed his hate crimes task force to look into them.
Now, there's no way the players say that, except the simple fact matters. I just want to point out one statistic from that. Aside from the rise of hate crimes, you notice that a lot now are being claimed by white supremacists. Why are we surprised? I mean, don't get me wrong. We kept expecting the current administration to turn around and actually denounce white supremacy and nationalism. He has yet to do that. At the same time, he's already sat there and said in many times the very infamous Charleston speech where he gave, hey, they're very nice people on both sides, okay? They're very nice. They're not all bad. Yeah, that's like saying all Nazis are not bad. Find one. But again, it's just sad that, like I said, for whether of your race, religion, creed, or color, or preference, however you choose to nominate yourself, it amazes me so that, yes, attacks do happen, and they are kind of, in a way, being sanctioned by that. And that is very sad. Hopefully that will actually steer this out on that one, but I'm going to be honest, until certain people start denouncing white supremacy and white nationalism and things of that nature, I fear that's not going to change, unfortunately. But we're going to try to switch some happy news for the end of this. We're actually going to go into our good news segment, because like we do on How the Frack We Got Here, we always do talk about some news, sometimes good, sometimes bad, sometimes very dark. But we try to end on a good note, because like I said, this being done on the weekend, it's Saturday. You probably worked out. You probably relax. You probably slept in. You did something that made you feel good, honestly. So we're actually going to leave you out with 3 stories. The first story that I have here, I'm going to be honest, I have to go to the store eventually, and now this story makes me want to go get something out of there. This guy basically went to the store for Christmas groceries, picked up a scratch-off card that he never, keep in mind, this is in this story, the guy never has played a scratch-off card, and yet his first shot is $250,000. I mean, of course, he went home, he went home with his groceries, kicked his feet up, scratched his card, and next thing you know, he's $250,000 richer. I can't knock the man for that, because I've played scratch-offs, and yeah, sometimes I've won, sometimes I've not. I've never, big one, like $250,000, but still, I can't knock the guy for, for that one, it's like, that's a good feeling. I don't know if you guys haven't noticed, that's a good feeling when you get a scratch-off card and you don't expect to win, but you sit down and you're like this, and all of a sudden just, ooh, $250,000. You kind of look at it, kind of go in your mind like, is this really real, or is somebody pranking me? Because they do have prank lottery cards out there. But when it finally sets in, I mean, dude, I'm going to be honest with you. Anybody who says money can't buy happiness doesn't have problems. I said, it's not trying hard enough. But again, it's a good story. Let me not get into that. But again, it's a good story. The simple fact of the matter is, hey, it's $250,000 you didn't have. After you pay Uncle Sam, because somehow Uncle Sam still gets a cut. But again, once you pay it and it's all over and done with, cool. I could live with that. But the next story I have is, for the simple fact of the matter of this is, I like stories where businesses give back to employees. And this one's no different. This one pizza shop was open on Christmas Day. Now, I know for a lot of you guys who are sitting there thinking, that's what, a pizza shop that was open on Christmas Day? Yes, they were open on Christmas Day. But what the cool part about this was even though they were open on Christmas, explaining that because they're open on Christmas Day, and anybody who doesn't know or try to order food or try to get food on Christmas, unless you're near a Jack in the Box or a White Castle. I think White Castle is actually closed on Christmas, and White Castle is my favorite place. I'm sorry. Unless you're next to a Jack in the Box, or unless you're next to a Waffle House or a Huddle House or some place that's for 24 hours, whatever your area is, it is difficult to get food. This pizza place in Indianapolis was open pretty much for the better part of the day. But what the employee did, what the owner of the business did, because of the fact that he had employers came in there, they shared the profits on Christmas Day. So each of the employees that actually opted to work Christmas Day made over anywhere from $700 to $1,000 paid in cash that day. Think about that for a second. You worked one day, even though it's Christmas, even though you opted to work in that day, your boss turns around and gives you anywhere from $700 to $1,000 cash. Just for working one day. Let me tell you something, for a guy who had to be working on holidays and whatnot, that is some kick-ass holiday pay. Because if you can sit there and say, and also it's a very generous boss, and I will always sit there and say this, and I think this is the problem with a lot of management in America and business owners. Some business owners who are successful have realized to invest in their employees and to make sure that they have everything they need to work. Because the funny part is, we do get in these soulless, emptiest, cold as ice businesses where you're not even a person, you're a body, you're a number, and there's no such thing as corporate loyalty. They're liable to replace you as soon as you keel over and die. But it's nice to actually see where some business owners actually want to invest back in their employees, and they do so in such a big way that you do inspire loyalty, that you do inspire but you do increase your business morale, and therefore a lot of people are a lot more into it. So I can't knock that pizza place for that, just because of that. Hey, Vaughn, see you watching, dude. All EA executives are soulless, money-hungry monsters. Yeah, you gotta explain that one. Uncle Sam is a pimp. Uncle Sam is a pimp. Well, yeah, no argument there. Uncle Sam is a pimp. Wow, a lot of people are watching. Okay, cool. So I'll definitely do shout outs at the end of this. But the last story I definitely have here, guys, for the Feel Good News segment part of it, is basically this story. Now, that I'm about to show. So this story it'll sound like a sappy love story, and don't get me wrong, it's pretty cool, because the simple fact of the matter is, you can't help but feel for stories like this. So, some context before I play this video. So, this family decided that their grandfather, the grandfather, I should say, this woman's husband, passed away 7 months ago, and the family decided to gift her with letters that her husband, their grandfather, wrote to each other while they're in college, and he kept them. And pretty much this was her reaction, and like I said, you probably need Kleenexes.
Yeah. Merry Christmas. Oh my gosh. And Dad. Okay. It's good. Go ahead and open it. Dad, a couple of Mom. We're going to look to this lady. Dad kept those. Oh my gosh. I wrote it from Petersburg. And from Annapolis.
For all of us
from Petersburg. Oh my gosh.
I was going through Dad's things. I found them.
And that was my first room at Virginia State. Bird Hall, 109 Bird Hall.
I'm not crying. You're crying. I'm good. I'm good. Damn, I actually did kind of tear up a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not ashamed to say that I did tear up a little bit. Yes, I did. So again, with that story, like I said, it's a beautiful story in which, like I said, the letters that her husband had kept, that he had written to her since they were in college, her family had actually put together and put all nice and wanted to show her, which did bring up one thing as I was sitting here watching this, fellas. Letters are important. I mean, if you don't think letters are important, you just saw what happened there. And I'm not downplaying it at all. I finally realized I need to step my game up for the person I'm into. I need to write letters, and and I used to have exquisite penmanship. I used to be cursive and everything, but I do get the sentiment because there are certain things in words that you just can't say, and it's cool to actually see that. And again, with that broke her down. I mean, damn. But then again, they were married. They were married for quite a long time until he passed. So it's always nice to have something to remember them by, as far as letters and things that go. So I'm not crying. You're crying. I got allergies. I got a sniffle. Yeah, sniffle. But anyway, really, Vaughn, that's just smoke in my eyes. I ain't crying. I ain't got no smoke around here, dude. I did think of paprika. Paprika make me cry. But anyway, that's foolishness. I apologize. That's all we got for the podcast today, guys. Like I said, I do apologize for the late start. Technically, as you can see, it was a slow news day, so we try to cover everything. So with that being said, let me go ahead and go down the list because a lot of you guys kind of popped in. Let me first and foremost always say thank you. Because number one, I did not know how many people actually watch this, because at first it was nice to do, and it was a hobby, and it's like I love talking about daily news and events and current events and things of that nature. I did not see how many people actually do watch this and actually look forward to it and enjoy it. So I always want to say thank you to whoever watches, likes, subscribes, starts a watch party, tells a friend. I certainly appreciate it because, like I said, I would love to grow this into something where it becomes a full-time job, and I would love to do that. But again, I thank everybody who's watched. Let me go down the list. Thank you, John. Thank you, Kels. Thank you, Angela, Devon, Luis. Vaughn, I know you're still watching. Matt, thank you. Kelly, also very much thank you. And for everybody else I didn't catch, I apologize. I was trying to catch on my phone, but people kept hopping in and out, and which I appreciate you for even peeking your head in. So, I'm not the only cat that actually has podcasts, so we're going to go into the shameless plugging part of this. I'm going to start with my buddy Vaughn, who is watching. Vaughn, hope you're feeling better. If you still sound like you're patient zero, I'm going to greet you with a hug and some Clorox wipes. But anyway, my buddy Vaughn, A.Witherspoon on Facebook, Big Busy A. on YouTube, has several podcasts of his own. His first podcast is the VSTs. The VSTs is a podcast about news. That news can be video games. That news can be music. That news can be trailers, as he loves to say. Interactive show just like mine. His other show is called Rhythm This, where you can ruin us over the rhythm, which he goes with the albums of the past and the present and grades to a 4-tier rating system. If you want to know what that rating tier system is, you have to watch Rhythm This to find out. He also has a Random as Fuck with Uncle VZ, which I hope you're doing when you come over here. If not, that's cool. But what is Random as Fuck? Random as Fuck is the pool of ratchets that we sometimes dip our toes into to take a break from life and have a chuckle. Some videos will make you think, some videos will make you cry. Some videos, to this day, will have me eternally laughing. Go to worldstarhiphop.com, look up Burger King on Fire. That is number 2 of my top 3. The first one is the old man that's rapping, everybody knows I'm a kingpin. You just had to watch it. But anyway, all the shows can be found under his Facebook, A.Witherspoon, or under his YouTube, Big BZA Podcast. And under his Facebook page, it does have a calendar to show when all his podcasts will be going live. As he just did the VST yesterday, which he went over certain trailers. I had to kind of go back and catch the replay of it because there were some trailers I had to look at and just go, no. Also, Vaughn, on another note, if you haven't seen Motherfuckers on YouTube, it is awesome. Aside from that, my other brother from another mother, Trace Brown, DJ King Eddie Wayne on Facebook, DJ King Eddie Wayne on YouTube, King Eddie Wayne on Facebook. That's a podcast of his own. His first one's called The Bump Down, in which is his music, culture, knowledge, and numbers, in which he goes over chart work, what's on the streets and what's on the underground, and artists that he's working with, and also gives his take on the recording industry as we know it. Also, if you do want your music to be played, whether on Trace's Bump Down or on Vaughn's Rhythm This, please reach out to Trace or Vaughn on Facebook, and they're going to give you the details on how to do that. The only thing that we do ask is that you bring your fire. I'm talking about that Dailan, because he's been on. So again, you never know who's actually watching these podcasts, as I've already sat there and said. And again, you never know who's going to be watching, who's going to be looking at it. You always want to bring your fire. So if you got that hot fire, then definitely let them know, and they'll, get your details on playing that, because you never know when your shot's coming. And yes, I did quote Eminem. But also with Trace's other show, it does lead into the Smoke with Truth that I like to call the Check Your Ego at the Door, No Frills for the Faint of Heart podcast, because I've said this about Trace for many years. He is probably the most unorthodox thinking brother that I can call family. But at the same time, he is so intelligent that he brings a unique perspective that I think is missing out there in the world. And if you're willing to talk to him, then goddamn it, he's willing to talk to you, which is always going to be the Smoke of Truth, because Trace always wants all the smoke. So with the Smoke of Truth and Smoke of Truth and the Bump Down, you can basically catch him on his Facebook page, which is King Eddie Wayne, and also on his YouTube page at DJ King Eddie Wayne as well. And also another brother from another mother who decided that he wanted a vacation, probably went to go to another gym because, he's always in a gym. And I love him so, but let's be honest, I guarantee somewhere in the world right now, he's in a gym. I'm talking about the mountain puncher we call Thomas. Thomas Reid on Facebook has his own podcast as well called To Be Determined. Unfortunately, will not be one today, but hopefully be one next Saturday, as it is every Saturday at 3 p.m. What is To Be Determined? To Be Determined is a fitness podcast about a guy who basically lives in the gym. I wish I could make that up. He literally stays in the gym 7 days a week. But he loves to be able to talk about fitness, things that have worked out for him, things that he wants to share with other people in order to help them reach their zenith, because the results are to be determined upon you. Also, he does have a YouTube page. It is the number 2, letter T, letter B, letter D. That is 2TBD, as in to be determined. The reason why we named it that is to basically beat the YouTube algorithm, which seems to be working so far. So if you want to go ahead and give him a look at, and also, like I said, not a podcast this week, unfortunately, but will be one next week under his Facebook page, Thomas Reid. And finally, yours truly has several podcasts as well. Of course, my How the Frack We Got Here podcast every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon. Of course, a bit later today, we might actually do it a little bit earlier today, depending on how we get that done, will be the Off Limits podcast. The Off Limits podcast is kind of one of my favorite ones, just because it is a podcast when it goes there. And when I mean there, I mean we go to subjects that most people may not want to talk about. But the only reason we do talk about them is to ensure that we're actually trying to have a modern, civilized discussion in which people aren't trying to talk over each other, force each other's opinions down each other's throats, and literally just hear where the other person's coming from. So we are going to go to areas that most people may fear to dread, but daggone it, that's why it's called Off Limits. But the whole point of it is to actually have civil, modern discussions, because I believe progressive discussions lead to progressive people, and progressive people can actually do wonderful things. So that's going to be a little bit later today, possibly between 5 to 7 p.m. Also on my Facebook page at William Buchanan. Because I've been told it is very easy to find me on. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's very easy to find me on Facebook. But also my other show that I have aside from that, which will also be Sunday. This will be Sunday between 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. It's called Get Bit. Get Bit is the Blurred podcast in which we cover everything sci-fi, comics, anime, video games, movies, and certain genres. Like I said, it's from a black person's point of view, because even though there are many blurred and geek podcasts out there, there's not one from an actually our kind of view, and that's what we try to cover as far as where Get Bit comes from. So it'll probably be me, Thomas, and probably some other ones that'll be with us Sunday night from 8 to 10 p.m. Also under my Facebook page under William Buchanan. And also every one of my shows actually has YouTube pages as well. So if you look up How the Frack We Got Here, Off of His Podcast, and Get Bit, that is GITBIT, to where you'll be able to see every podcast that we've done so far. And of course, I always sit there and say this: if you like what you saw, please let me know. If you didn't like what you saw, please let me know. I am open to criticism, because I'm trying to tailor these podcasts to where not only is it informative, but it challenges the thing. Because the whole point of How the Frack We Got Here, the whole point of How the Frack We Got Here is basically called about staying informed. It basically means that you're just not taking everything you hear at face value. You are pretty much going in and doing your own research and basically coming back to a conclusion that you can make up your mind for yourself, not to be influenced by outside forces. If you're able to do that with someone else, encourage them to do the same, then we can finally have that informed community, because the informed community can make a lot better decisions than an uninformed one, because an uninformed one got us trumped, and that's how the Frack We Got Here. So, with that being said, guys, again, thank you everybody who's watching. If you're watching this on the playback, go ahead and comment as if it's live, because like I said, I'm interested to see what everybody says, because I'm that type of person, because I like to talk and debate and things of that nature. So I want to hear what you said. So aside from that, guys, hope you have a wonderful Saturday, as this is the last Saturday before the new year, and of course have a happy New Year's, and everybody be safe and whatnot. But I'm out.